still manage cyber security to minimize its costs rather than to maximize its contribution and benefits of operating in a digital economy. It should be for maximization rather than looking at minimizing costs. Because if you want to look at the contribution and benefits that you can derive out of the digital economy, you have to look at cyber security. And today, this cyber security governance is playing a major role in the success and sustainability of digital business transformation. It is ensuring business continuity as well as maintain the confidence of external stakeholders, including citizens. So we are talking about citizen empowerment. So cyber security becomes very crucial for that purpose. Now, if you look at academic research, it has confirmed that cyber security governance has a highly significant impact on security service quality, and which in turn has a highly significant impact on the overall performance of the state or the department. So if you are actually focusing on cyber security, you will be in a position to say that if you have a good cyber security governance in position, you will be able to give good cyber service quality, and which in turn will give you better performance in the state or whichever department you are in. So I think there are major benefits, and all this percolates down to the digital Nagriks or the citizens who are wanting these services. So what is good governance all about? It is all about controls and measurements which translate to a business process, which means achieving a certain goal through a set of activities, rules and constraints under some conditions. Correct? It's a process which can be continuously improved, and hence it can be measured for effectiveness, efficiency, internal controls and compliance. So if you look at security governance, it can be defined as processes of establishing and maintaining a framework and supporting management structure and processes to provide assurance that information security strategies are aligned with and support the business objectives, are consistent with applicable laws and regulations through adherence to policies and internal controls, and provide assignment of responsibility, all in an effort to manage risk. So security governance is not a technical domain. What is it? With all these definitions which I said, so what is it? If it is not a technical domain, what is it? It's a business domain, right? If it's a business domain, it's all about managing risk. So you need to be looking at how to manage risk. So there are 6 outcomes of good governance for cyber security, which are listed here. Accountability frameworks, decision-making hierarchies regarding the roles and responsibilities that everyone will have in their cyber security function, providing a holistic view of risk and understanding of the cyber threats which are faced, the mitigation plans and strategies, including business continuity, actively monitoring performance, reporting compliance, and continuous improvement, which means you have an oversight process and procedures, and ensuring the right cybersecurity investment is made at the right time and in the right place. So do you want to invest in people or process or technology, etc., is what you have to look at. Okay. So if these are the outcomes of good governance, of good cybersecurity governance, since I am from the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team or CERT-IN, I just thought I will just tell you how does CERT-IN support cybersecurity and good governance. So CERT-IN oversees information security policies and practices through cyber crisis management plan, which are prepared by the states and departments, and also through cybersecurity technical audits and there are 150 empaneled auditors today who are helping out in that perspective. Second, it helps strengthen cyber security and incident response postures by conducting cyber security exercises and drills. And in addition, it also does 24/7 incident response help desk. Third, it gives directions like the ones we have given in April 2022. It publishes guidelines which we have done for the government, state government, everyone in June 2023, and issues alerts, advisories to help entities with the adoption of best practices, focus on assets that carry the highest risk, prioritize remediation efforts, and provide guidance for mitigation. Fourth, it does onboarding of entities onto its Cyber Swachhta Kendra for helping them understand the malware infections and vulnerable services in their respective ICT infrastructure. As well as today we are covering 94% of the digital population of this country by providing this free service where they can download free tools and make sure that they are clean, their digital devices are clean. We are also providing entities with cyber threat intelligence to enable them to take measures against malicious actors, including state actors, and onboarding onto the National Cyber Coordination Center to receive situational awareness. So if you see, all these things are towards building India in a cyber secure and resilient fashion. Second, it does give empowerment to citizens so that they can use their ICT infrastructure in a trusted manner. It also helps entities, state as well as different departments to make sure that they are following good cybersecurity practices and hygiene so that the citizens are benefited. So you have to look at it in a holistic manner. Having said that, because of the complexity of cybersecurity, you need to look at it as a systems thinking based model. And when I say systems thinking based model, you are able to see in this diagram here, there are certain things in yellow and certain things in green. You view this as a three-dimensional pyramid. Okay? View this as a three-dimensional pyramid. And now the ones in yellow are organization, people, process, and technology. From a governance perspective, if you start putting a lot of your budgets on people, or let's say you're putting more on technology, buying different products, what will happen? That technology circle will become huge because you've pumped in a lot of money. Your other circles will remain much smaller. So you have for example, just for comparison, you will have a tennis ball for 3 circles and 1 circle will be a football. So what will happen to the pyramid? It will collapse. So why did it collapse? Because you didn't have a holistic view of how are you governing your cyber security. You are investing a lot on something without investing on the others proportionately. Right? Similarly, if you look at the greens, you have architecture, you have culture, you have governing, you have emergence, enabling support, human factors, etc. Now assume that you have no culture of security in your department or in the state. You say everything, Atiti Devo Bhava, open up everything, give everything to everyone, whoever wants anything, give it. What will happen to that pipe? It will become absolutely narrow. What will happen? Those circles are there, the pipe is not able to hold those 2 circles against which it is, again the pyramid will collapse. So what I'm trying to tell you is that cyber security is a complex subject. It is a business subject, and you need a systems thinking approach to address it. And you have to address it by looking at all these different aspects. These are the high-level aspects which I am mentioning here. If you looked at those, you will be able to govern it correctly, and you will have good governance, and you will be able to address cyber security. Okay? Yes, no? Understood. And the other thing that you have to look at is, while you have all these things, you have to ensure there is 7 main principles of governance which are followed when you have this sort of a pyramid, which are accountability, transparency, rule of law, participation, responsiveness, effectiveness, and efficiency. This is where the citizens come into picture. So they will be able to see who is accountable, where is our public money being put transparently, why are you putting something more on technology when you should have been putting on processes or people. Are you following the rule of law? Is there a reasonable amount of laws in place, etc., for addressing cyber security? How are they able to participate in this and contribute? How are you going to be responsive? How are you expecting them to be responsive? How do we measure this and see that it is effective and efficient? And what needs to be done to make it more efficient and effective? Right? So, with that, I am trying to say I have set up the context, and now I am going to leave it to the other experts who are going to take us through a lot of stuff. With that, I am now going to call upon Mr. Vinayak Godse, followed by Mr. Pankit Desai, and then Mr. Vivek Roy. Right? Yes. Sure. Yes.
We are more in a reactive mode actually,
Yes.
sir, rather than being in a proactive mode,
Yes.
where we are planning on all those points which you
Correct.
have brought out
Correct.
actually.
Correct.
So how do we really, like, from my perspective, even the department where I am working, how should we change over from this reactive to the proactive mode? Because I have to do a lot of convincing to the department, all the stakeholders who are not really, in a right, up to date to that speed to accept all those kinds of concepts actually, sir.
Can you take it back one slide? Can you one slide back? No, it's stuck. It was working fine up till now. Suddenly it is stuck. Or restart it otherwise. That's all. Just keep it there. So, your point is absolutely valid that you are in a reactive mode. The good part is that you are in a reactive mode. The others are not even in that mode. Okay, so let me compliment you on that you are in a reactive mode and you are thinking to go on to a proactive mode. Second, you said you are spending time convincing. You are convincing because you have to understand that whomever you are convincing does not have the holistic picture of what is cyber security and what are you doing. So when you are trying to present to someone, this is what I am doing, this is what I need, they are unable to see this full picture. So if you put it in this diagrammatic form and say, this is the budget I had, these are the number of people I have, So in terms of people, I have been able to do this, train them to do this. But because of that, there are issues in culture or there are issues in human factors, because people who have to work with technology I'm unable to train them. Your department is having X number of people. I need money to educate them what they have to do and not to do, for which I have to relook at processes. Those processes are not defined, and hence I am always in this reactive mode, because more than one of those factors, either the green or the yellow, are not properly defined, and you are always in that catch-up mode. So you will always be in reactive mode, because you are going around to make sure that this pyramid does not fall. So if this pyramid falls, you have a crisis. And that is what I mentioned, that we also help you with a crisis management plan. But we do not want you to reach that crisis management plan. So if you can manage everything here, you will not reach that. So you will have a well-managed stuff. Once you have put it in this fashion and also you put down where you have spent money, etc., you will be able to say, this is what it is, this is the high-level picture, this is where the problems are, and if you want us to be proactive, we need to spend here. That is why we do the drills and exercises which I mentioned. If you do the drills and exercises, you will get to know where your problems are, whether it is in the process, whether you don't have the right tools, whether you don't have people who are trained in the right areas, whether there is a issue of your culture, whether there is an issue of your architecture, etc. That will emerge. And that is what we will tell you when you participate in these mock drills and exercises. So with all those things, that is the ammunition we give you, is what you go back and say, this is what the overall picture is, this is what we want to do. Then people will understand. They'll start listening to you. Today you are against a wall because you are unable to explain what you want to do, where you want to head. With this you can say, this is what my pyramid is. If we continue in this fashion, this is the time frame. In next 1 month, this pyramid will snap. So that it doesn't snap, this is what we want to do. This is where we are wanting to take it. You give a clear roadmap, there is no one who will not agree to it. And you will be able to go from reactive to proactive in a phased manner. But don't think you will be able to go proactive day one, and after going proactive day one, people will still say, now what? Because you are going to have vulnerabilities on a daily basis. You are going to have new attacks on a daily basis. So what are you going to do about it? How are you going to address those? So there will be certain amount reactive. There will be a lot of part which is proactive. You will have to balance both. Any other question? Clear? Okay, so with that, I think I'll call upon Vinayak and then Pankit and then Vivek. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Behel, Mighty and DARPG. So, to get us here to talk about important area of security and governance, can I get my deck up? Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is trying to bring the context of today's security to the discussion of security governance and see what that means, what security governance means in the context of the today, the way the attacks are happening. And from there, I think if you talk about governance, there are two things. One we just heard about is that there is a government of India and a lot of those ecosystem is working to help you for security. There's something that you need to do at your end, basically. So there are 2 points that I will be cover with the. Okay, so when we talk about security, right? So these are the things that is what security issues and problems are looking at, right? So one is the scale and complexity, right? So the kind of scale and complexity that we see, the kind of attacks are coming, and way the different devices, things are joining to the network, the interconnectivity, interdependence of the systems that we have been looking at, because there are a lot of, if you build any solutions and product nowadays, it's not your own solutions. There are so many third-party solutions, they come together, a lot of third-party interfaces that you use basically. So that is why there are a lot of interconnectedness that we have. And now in the context of the digital economy where digital public infrastructure is there, you are building on top of it basically, right? And then what we are saying is a small change, a small issue leads to larger, bigger problem basically in security. There could be hundreds and millions of things go well, but a small issue will create a larger ramification for the security. And the attack landscape, definitely known attack, we have developed something, but a lot of unknowns are there, right? And those unknowns has to be dealt with. And to deal with those unknowns and deal with your security, there are too many permutation combinations that do come when you are taking a security decision basically. The typical computer science problem, so this has to be solved, right? And on this context, we need to really try to think about how do we define cyber security or security governance. So we try to define that as a one definition, right? And this definition talks about like that one issue which create larger ramification for security. So not allowing that one issue to create that ramifications, not allowing that one issue to get unaddressed basically. Not allowing that one issue to create these kind of challenges and disruptions that we see in the ecosystem nowadays. All of these things that we look at. So what we need is a very detailed attention to what is happening in the organization. What we need is the kind of a response mechanism. What you need to exact actions that you require for that. What you need is there could be some predictability that we can bring to the table basically. And while doing that, we have to bring a lot of delivery capability, and at the same time you have to make it sure that all the efforts are productive in nature basically. So the not allowing an issue to create a ramification and giving the due attention, and if any that issue is coming basically to making it sure that it triggers the response is a very important definition of cybersecurity governance basically. And if you don't do that, if you don't set up the process for that, it creates a problem for you. And then second part, which is very important part for you in the very complex ecosystem that you are working is called as orchestration basically, right? Because the enterprise ecosystem, the products, the applications that you are putting together, they are so interdependent, they are so connected, there are so many different complex things that have to be deal with. So you need to cover every of them together, right? You need to reach out to the depth it is required to solve the problem basically. You need to make sure that many of the functions of the organizations are working together to deliver that kind of a benefit to security. You need to make sure that all of them are synthesizing to take that decision for you basically, and the overall actions that you have been collecting. It's more like a running orchestra. And there are so many different things that needs to be done to deliver the value for security basically. So these two things are now becoming very important from the cybersecurity governance perspective. One is exactly defining what the security governance means in the current ecosystem and complexity that we arrive in, but we see at this point of time, and then try to make sure that we create a responses in the organization, we develop a security in a way that we are able to reach out to the depth, we are able to give attention of security to all that matters for security. So the coverage is extended for that. We have good level of coordination within and outside the organization basically, and we get it all together to deliver that kind of benefit to the organization basically. So this is one of the simple core basic definitions that do work on a governance and security governance perspective. And when I have to look at that, I have try to see against this particular ecosystem, if you have to really understand the governance at an organizational level and governance at an ecosystem level basically, I have to see what is happening against this basically. So currently most of us had been doing security by just focusing our attention to assessment and assurance. We do vulnerability assessment, we do penetration testing. There are definitely 4 or 5 solutions we may have for security, but we really don't. Significant amount of the security nowadays, until now, has been going to focus on attention to testing, assurance, conformance, auditing, risk assessment, such kind of activity basically. Yes, those are important, but that is how still I see most of the public services organization or PSUs or government organization, what they do in security, they will always talk about they do penetration testing, they do vulnerability assessment, they will do risk assessment, they will do the security audit basically. But what is required now, and this is what the security then, some years back we used to do that, all of us had been in security, had been expertise in this, we come from this particular thing, but we have to do the security, we have to do security now, the security is more real-time management of the problem. Day to day, minute by minute, second by second, how you are managing this problem basically. How you are making it sure that everything is working together to manage that problem. One is to identify the problem, so that's why you define, there's a policy define and policy enforcement. So there is something that you define to make sure that you know what is going wrong in the organization. And once we know that, to quickly you are doing something, taking some action so that you are taking care of that particular problem basically. So philosophically for that you have to be very agile, you have to be very adaptable, you need to manage things very more governed way basically. Entire effort needs to be very orchestrated, there are a lot of automation that you need to bring to the table basically. And at the same time you have to make sure that whatever effort you are putting together, they are agile in nature basically. So the security currently, if you are trying to think about improving the governance of security, if you don't focus your attention to manage the problem on real-time basis, it will be very difficult for you. And we have seen a lot of those cases where a small issue is creating a lot of problem because they are not identifying that issue at that point and not able to create a responsive actions for that. And now, as we are seeing that, no matter how much you prepare, there's still some problems and it will happen. Security from now is also very important, right? Like you focus significant amount of your time to response and recovery basically. And how do we make the response more systematized so that you limit damage happen out of it basically? How do you make sure that this response itself is automated? There are multiple paths the response can happen. If a ransomware attack is coming, so the playbooks that people are writing, there's so many different ways the kind of recovery could happen basically. So how do you make sure that henceforth, after whatever you're trying to do in terms of making security more real-time basis, invest significant effort to response and recovery, and resilience is very important part. So these are very key critical principles which are there to improve the security governance within the organization ecosystem. And this is something that you need to do in organization. But to make this happen, you need to have ecosystem support as well. So what you need, you need to have the leadership development. So you need to understand the leaders which are security leaders, they should understand how to build this basically. You need to have a lot of collaborations and sharing of the information within organization, outside the organization, with the government entities like a CERT India basically. You need to have a lot of innovation ecosystem because there are a lot of small use cases you will be required. So you need to have innovation, you need to have the research focus, you need to create a market for those technology, and more importantly, creating innovation ecosystem out of it basically. So these are effort that needs to be put at an aggregate level. So you yourself may not be doing, but at a national level, somebody is putting that effort, the government is putting that effort, some efforts are coming in. On top of it, government across the globe are putting together strategy for the cyber security. They are putting together policies and regulations. We have seen now Digital India Act is coming in. We already have DPDP Act in place, and a lot of sectoral regulators are also putting the framework for that. There are a lot of enforcement actions at a judiciary, at a law enforcement side that needs to be done basically. And there are a lot of effort that government is taking for cyber security. CERT India, we just heard from CERT India what exactly effort that they are making basically. And you need to also create quite a good skill and competence to understand the problems in this real nature basically. So this is a governance. The central part is what you need to do in your organization. The outer part is what is happening and what should be done at aggregate level basically. So it's a simple way I try to make sure that to understand what do you mean security governance. So with this I would like to conclude my talk, and then probably get a time we can discuss about this as well. Thank you. Please. Yeah. No, policy definition here is not process. I'm talking about technology here. You need to define those policy and configure your organization in such a way that you are able to identify the security issue. So definition, policy definition point, we call it as a policy definition point basically, to identify issues and then policy enforcement point basically. So the policies is not like document and process I'm talking about. I'm talking about on the system basically. How do you make sure that you identify it basically? And with that, if you know historically how things are happening, you'll be able to understand how system have behaved for me and how it could behave in the future basically. So that's why predictability can be brought actually. Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Vinayak. I think what you got is what I covered was what you should be doing in your departments and organization, etc. What he is given you is what is at a broader national level, and what I mentioned what you are doing within the department on the state. He's talked about a national level. So now with this, I'll invite Mr. Ankit Desai to take us to the next session.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back in Indore. I'm here back after about 30 years. I last came in 1994. I was just remembering when I was here last. An amazing city, beautiful city. You heard a lot in the survey.